Hi, Tal, how are you?
Hi, very good to see you. How are you?
Fine, I am very honored because you are here and you accept this interview, and it's great for me to have you here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Um, Tal Shahar is a speaker and author and former Harvard teacher. He gave the most popular lecture program course in the university named The Science of Happiness. Le- his, in this course, he had over 900 students. Am I right? Uh,
Almost 900 students.
okay, almost. And I am Dana Benarroch. I am the founder of Contacto, Humano, Organizacional. And I've been teaching happiness 10 years now throughout lectures and workshops in companies. I am a happiness trainer by Happiness Studies Academy. Tal is co-founder of Happiness Studies Academy. And I learned a lot of new things, a lot of new knowledge and perspectives from arts, literature, biology, of course, psychology, sociology, and many other fields. Tal, would you like to tell us briefly what is about in the HSA course and what is the SPIRE model?
Yes, I would love to share more about the Happiness Studies Academy. So about 5 years ago, I was on a flight and a question suddenly came to me as I was crossing the Atlantic Ocean. And the question was, how is it that there is a field of study for psychology, which is what I've been doing, or history, or medicine, or philosophy, and yet there is no field of study for happiness? Yes, there is positive psychology, but that's just the psychology of happiness. What about what philosophers had to say about happiness, and what theologians had to say about happiness, and what economists and movie directors and poets? And I resolved then to help create a field, or rather an interdisciplinary field of study that brings together what all these areas, what all these thinkers, what all this research, what all this scholarship had to say about happiness, and basically integrate philosophy, history, psychology, neuroscience, literature, bring them all together and create this new interdisciplinary field. And what the Happiness Studies Academy has done is my colleagues and I have put together a certificate program for the general public, as well as programs for schools that help teach the science of happiness from different perspectives with two objectives. The first objective is to help individuals become happier. The second objective is to help those individuals help others become happier.
Yeah, it's a great course. I enjoy it a lot. But what is Aspire, the model you propose to us?
Good. So the SPIRE model essentially is about finding a definition for happiness. You know, there are many definitions to happiness, and many people even say, well, happiness is basically like beauty. You can't define it, but you know it when you see it. Well, with happiness, partially it's like that. You know it when you experience it. At the same time, it's important, I believe, to define it, because the better we can define it, the better we can pursue it and ultimately attain it. So my definition of happiness is taken from the work of Helen Keller, the work of Aristotle, and it brings them together, and it looks at happiness along 5 dimensions, 5 elements. The first element is spiritual well-being. Spiritual well-being is about finding a sense of meaning and purpose in life. It's about being present to our experience. Yes, of course, it can be about religion, but it doesn't have to be. So spiritual well-being is about meaning and presence. Then there is physical well-being. Physical well-being is about the mind-body connection. It's about nutrition. It's about exercise. It's about getting sufficient sleep or rest in general. So that's physical well-being. Then there is also intellectual well-being. Intellectual well-being is about curiosity. Do you know, for example, that people who are curious, who learn consistently, who ask questions all the time, actually live longer. They're healthier. Intellectual well-being is also about learning whether it's through text or learning about nature or learning about people, but learning deeply about the wonderful world around us. So that's intellectual well-being. Then there is relational well-being, which is about relationships. Number one predictor of happiness is quality time we spend with people we care about and who care about us. So that's relational well-being. And of course, it's also about relationship with oneself that is important to happiness. And finally, it's emotional well-being. And emotional well-being is about first cultivating pleasurable emotions such as joy and gratitude and love and excitement and interest. It's about cultivating these pleasurable emotions. It's also about learning to better deal with painful emotions, such as sadness or anger or anxiety or frustration. And it's these 5 elements, again, spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, and emotional. And if you look at the first letter of each word, it spells spire. It's these 5 elements that together constitute happiness, a happy life.
Let me point out something about the E element, the emotional dimension, because I love your statement. Permission to be human. It's a very compassive and kind concept. Would you like to briefly to tell us what is permission to be human?
Yeah, very much so. You know, when I'm invited today to give lectures, I always insist, if it's an audience I have not spoken to before, to start by talking about the permission to be human. This idea came to me during my first year when I taught a class on positive psychology, the science of happiness. And I was having lunch in one of the undergraduate dorms at Harvard, and a student came over to me and said, "Tal, I hear you're teaching a class on happiness." And I said, "Yeah, that's right, positive psychology." And then he said, "You know, my roommates are taking your class." And I said, "That's great." And then he said to me, "But you know, Tal, now that you're teaching this class, you've got to be careful." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Tal, you've got to watch out." And I said, "How come?" And he said, "Because if I see you unhappy, I'll tell my roommates." And I actually used that in class the following day. And I told my students, you know, the last thing in the world I want you to think is that I'm always happy, or that you, by the end of the semester, will experience a constant high. In fact, there are only 2 kinds of people who do not experience painful emotions, such as sadness or anxiety or envy or frustration. 2 kinds of people who do not experience these emotions. The first kind are the psychopaths. The second kind are dead. So if you experience painful emotions at times, it's a good sign. It means you're not a psychopath and you're alive. You know, the problem in today's culture, and it really is a problem, is that people do not give themselves the permission to be human, the permission to experience the full range of human emotions. They think, oh, there's something wrong with me because I'm envious of a friend. There's something wrong with me because I'm anxious before doing something that's important to me. Oh, there's something wrong with me because I feel anger and I shouldn't. No, there's nothing wrong with us when we experience these emotions. In fact, there is everything right with us when we do. And the point is that when we give ourselves the permission to be human, when we give ourselves the permission to experience the full range of human emotions, that is actually when these emotions are more likely to go away. In contrast, when I reject these emotions, when I constantly chastise myself for feeling anxiety or envy or sadness, these emotions actually intensify and they grow stronger. So the permission to be human is really the foundation of the good life. In fact, the first step, I would say, to finding, experiencing happiness is first allowing in unhappiness.
Yeah. Besides, because the happiness that we are talking about isn't a constant or permanent high. It's a deeper happiness that allows us to being sad or yellows or envy or with envy and be happy.
Exactly right. And this is precisely why there are 5 elements to happiness. You know, happiness is not just about pleasure. Happiness, yes, pleasure is great and important, as is our ability to deal with painful emotions, as is physical well-being, as is intellectual pursuits and curiosity, as is a sense of meaning and purpose in life. All these make up this whole person well-being, or whole being, as we put
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and that's what I love about your course. So thank you a lot for getting all this point of view together. Thank you. And what I love the most is about the S dimension, because I've been studying happiness 20 years now. The first 10 years was for me only. And 10 years ago, I found a book, a great book, The Passion Test. And that book um, made my life turn 180 degrees. Because I found my life purpose through the passion test. I founded Contacto, Humano, Organizacional. And I think that the life purpose through the passions are, for me, the core of a happy life. So I want tell, or I would like if we can discuss what what is the importance of passions in happiness, in the science of happiness. But let's begin defining what is passion in this field, okay? Because there is misunderstood about passion. So let's get in a definition about passion.
Good. So let me share with you again my definition. It doesn't mean that it's the only or even right definition.
I know that.
But my definition, I'll share a story with you that helped me think about my passion. So when I graduated from college, I felt a little bit lost in terms of what path I wanted to take with my life. I was thinking maybe to be an academic, or maybe to pursue a career in business. I was working in a company in psychology. I was thinking maybe doing that. So I was really, I must say, a little bit all over the place, and I felt confused. And I went to my teacher, Ohad Kamin, who's a philosopher, and I shared with him my confusion. And he said, okay, I recommend you do an exercise. And the exercise was as follows. He said, first of all, think about what you can do, what you're capable of doing, and make a list of that. And out of that list, come up with those things, out of the things that you can do or can do relatively well, what are the things that you want to do? And then you have a shorter list. And out of that list, what are the things that you really want to do? So you have even fewer things. And out of those things that you really want to do, find the things that you really, really want to do. And then finally, what do you really, really, really want to do? And then go ahead and do it. And, in a way, what he did was he depicted a series of concentric circles, where this is maybe what you can do, and this is what you want to do, and what you really want. And then ultimately, what you really, really want to do is, that's where your passion is. This is something that is important to you. This is almost the feeling of, this is what you were meant to be doing with your life. This is your path. This is your destiny. And identifying that path, that destiny, that thing that you really, really, really want to do, that and doing it, that is living your passion to me.
Yeah, but I know there is a lot of people that don't find easy to know what is really, really, really what they want to do or to be, well, both
Yes.
of them. And I think it isn't an intellectual um, reflection. It is,
Yeah.
it is from heart.
Yes.
And I usually say that when you find that what you really, really, really want to be and to do from your heart, it's like a rocket in your back because it pushes you,
Good.
um, and nobody and nothing can stop you.
Yeah.
Even yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like you have no choice, but
Yeah.
you're compelled to do it.
Yeah, I love that
I,
statement. You have no choice.
yeah. In many ways, you choose it, or it chooses you.
I think it's the last one.
Yeah. Nietzsche once wrote, when you have a what for, every how becomes possible. When you have a what for, every how becomes possible. And in many ways, I think what he's describing is what you're talking about. The what for is your passion. And when you have that passion, every how becomes possible. You can basically overcome any barrier.
And
I can certainly relate to that.
yeah, and you find out the ideas, and the right person meets you. The synchronicity shows up in your life. I am talking about my own experience. So um, I think that passion is the core of happiness. Tal, I don't know if you agree with me, but I think it's the core because, like Helen Keller's history, she was blind, she was deaf, and eh, but she found her passion. He found their life meaning. She
Yes.
so. I think it's the core of happiness.
Yes, I certainly think it's um, a very important pillar, maybe the most important pillar. Viktor Frankl would certainly agree with you and say, it is about finding meaning. This is what logotherapy is about. Um, and the question is, how broadly do you define meaning? For example, would you include under meaning what I experience when I spend time with my children, when I spend time with my family? So again, this is why I talk about the importance of definition. For me, I would say, okay, so you need a sense of meaning and purpose in life, which is perhaps your work, perhaps your vocation. And then that's under spiritual well-being for me. And then I have a separate relational well-being. However, the two of them can go hand in hand and both belong under passion, in which case I would absolutely agree. It is the most important element of happiness.
And when you talked about the peak potential zone, remember that? Mm, I I made up from the peak potential zone like a flower, like Martin Seligman says, flourishing. So in one, how do you say petalo?
Petal.
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 In white petal, we have the strengths, the character strengths. In the other petal, we have values, your core values. The other petal, we can have your talents, your abilities. And the last one, and for me is the most important of them, your passion. Your passions, because you can work, you can live through your relationships, you can live with character strengths, your values, your talents without passions. And in that case, I don't think you feel happy.
Yeah. Yes, I think you're right. The question though is, what about a person who has not found their ultimate passion, or that passion that you talk about that changes everything? And and there are many people who haven't found this ultimate passion. So first of all, the first advice would of course be continue looking for it.
Yeah.
The second advice, though, that I think is no less important, is that it's not an all or nothing proposition.
Okay.
Meaning, it's not that if you haven't found your ultimate passion, if you haven't found your ultimate purpose in life, that it means that until that point you're doomed to misery.
Okay.
You can still experience a full and fulfilling life, even if you haven't found your ultimate purpose. Viktor Frankl makes a distinction between big M and small m meaning. Capital M and small letter m meaning. So capital M meaning is the big life meaning. I think it's closer to what you mean by talking about your real passion. And the small m are the smaller things. The day-to-day, for example, I experience a sense of meaning when I spend an hour in volunteering in a homeless shelter. It may not be my life's passion and purpose to, work or build homeless shelters, but I do experience meaning while doing it. So maybe make a distinction between capital P passion and small p passion that could be where it could be an easier bar to reach. It's not all or nothing. It's not 100 or 0. And that may be helpful for many people.
Sure. And it seems to me like a whole being passion, because you are integrating the small things that we should appreciate in life, and the big ones.
Yeah, we talked earlier about choices, and I think choices obviously are an important part of happiness, and yet you can look at big choices and small choices. So the big choices are what career do I choose to pursue? That's a big choice. It will impact a lot of what I do day to day for many years potentially. Or the choice of who do I choose to marry or to live with or to be with. Do I choose to have children, and if so, when and how many? If it is a choice. So these are very big choices. At the same time, they're not the only choices that matter. The choice that I'm making right now, whether I sit down like this or I sit down like this, that's an important choice. Or yes, exactly. Or the choice that I'm going to make later on before I go to bed. Do I go through my day and relive moments that I appreciate? Or do I just go to bed without doing it? Do I wake up in the morning and express gratitude for being up, or say, a couple of things that I look forward to during the day? These are important choices. Or do I choose to take a deep breath once in a while? A small choice, but a choice that can make a big difference cumulatively. In the same way, there is big choices, i.e. big passion, and small choices, small passion.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely agree. And by the other hand, passion is important because the authentic happiness comes from within. Not it is not recommendable. How do you say recommendable? Advisable to be happy because only because of the external things or people. So it's a balance, of course. It's something that you have to get in balance. But passion comes from within, so it feels absolutely joyful, great, delicious.
Yes. As you mentioned this, I'm thinking about an exercise that I often do. In fact, just yesterday in class, I did it with my students, and you probably recall it from our course. The exercise goes as follows. Imagine that a spell of anonymity has been cast on you. From now on, and for the rest of your life, no one will know what you do. Only you and you alone will know about all the ones that you do, about all the people that you help, about how successful you are, how good you are. You and you alone will know about all the things that you do. In such a world of anonymity, in such a world where no one knows what you do, what would you do? Now, this is an exercise that I've done with myself, and I've done it with others. And the purpose of the exercise is not to say, okay, so you should only do those things that you would do in a world where no one knows. No, it's not. But what it is, it's about distilling your inner voice, clarifying your inner voice, understanding what it is that you really, really, really want to do, independent of others' expectations, independent of others' thoughts about you or what you should be doing. So it's about finding that inner voice. Now, the reason why it's important is because external voices are very loud, and they very often are much louder than the internal voice, to the point where we don't hear our inner voice. And this exercise can be helpful. It doesn't guarantee, but it can be helpful in, as you put it, level these two voices. And both are important, the external as well as the internal. Both should be listened to.
Now, besides, because we don't know if we are going to reach our goals. We don't know. You can put your 100% effort, but you don't know. You don't know if you are going to wake up alive tomorrow. You don't know. So happiness is the path, as many people say.
Yes, and this is a very important distinction. You see, essentially there are two very different schools of thought when it comes to happiness. One school of thought says happiness is about achieving your goals. So you want to be happy, have goals, achieve them, and when you achieve them, that's when you feel fulfilled. That's when you're happy. This approach to happiness is mostly prevalent in the Western world. This is what we're taught. You want to be happy, so get into this university. You want to be happy, get this job. You want to be even happier, make so much money, i.e. get to this milestone. You want to be happier, have this big house, big car. Check all the boxes. This is what happiness is about. And this is what most people in the West actually believe. On the other hand, come people who say, no, this is absolutely wrong. If it were true, then all the wealthy people in the world would be extremely happy, and all students in the top university in the world would be happy, and all people driving a luxury car would be happy. And we know that's not true. It's very far from being true. In fact, when people, we know that when people fulfill their goals, yeah, they're happy, but only momentarily. Yeah, when they buy their dream car, they're happy, but very quickly they go back to where they were before. When they get their dream job, yeah, initially and make all that money, they're happy, but only for a short while. So it's not about reaching goals. They say it's all about being in the present, living in the here and now. Forget goals, they say. Just be mindful, be present, and then you'll be happy.
Yeah.
My take, looking at the research, looking at the at both East and West, is that both are partially true. Meaning, I'm not for throwing away goals. Absolutely not. I'm actually for having goals. At the same time, I also know that the achievement of those goals, that's not the prescription to happiness. So how do you synthesize these two schools of thought? The one hand, have goals. This is what happiness is about. On the other hand, just be present. It's about seeing goals for what they are. And what I mean by that is that goals should be looked at as facilitating our enjoyment of the present moment. In other words, goals are not the ends. They are means towards the end. And the end is enjoying the present moment, enjoying the path, as you put it. However, in order to enjoy this path, goals are important. Because when I have a goal that I'm passionate about, that gets me out of bed every morning, then this facilitates, allows me to enjoy the present much more. You know, if I just wake up in the morning and I say, I don't really know what I'm doing with my life, but I'll just be present. You know, maybe I could find happiness, or maybe some people can, I'm not sure. But if I wake up in the morning and I say, I want to spread happiness in the world. And for me, the way to do it is by writing and teaching. And then I get to my computer and I start to write, whether it's lesson plans or whether it's my books. That's what I'm passionate about. And that's when I experience joy and happiness in the present moment as I go along the path. It's having that passion and being present, bringing those two together.
It's wonderful. I love this topic, Tal. I love it. Let me see what else. Tal, do you think passions can change throughout a lifetime?
You know, when I was 16 years old, and I remember this was, over 30 years ago. I remember it as if it was yesterday. I remember sitting at home and thinking, what am I going to do with my life when I no longer have squash? How am I even going to get out of bed in the morning when I no longer play squash? At that time, I was playing squash, I was still in school. I was playing squash 3-4 hours a day. And I was getting ready to turn professional a year later when I would finish school, which I did. But that was my passion. That is what I wanted to do with my life. And I thought, okay, so I'm going to play professional till I'm 30, and at the age of 30, I'm going to become a coach and continue with squash until I can't walk and hold a racket anymore. And obviously that changed. Today I'm not as passionate about squash. Yeah, for me, that was what my passion was then. And then, fast forward, unfortunately, I got injured, so that had to change. But I remember at the age of 24, so 8 years after, reading a text by Aristotle and reading Nicomachean Ethics and crying while reading it. I was in tears because I was so passionate about the philosophy and his work, and I say, this is what I want to do. And fast forward a few years, and I was I was reading Martin Seligman and thinking, wow, positive psychology. That is what I want to do with the rest of my life. And I was, so passionate about this. And, later it expanded, to happiness studies and creating this new field that I was so passionate and am so passionate about. So absolutely, passions change. And for most people, I had one of my closest friends in college. Her name also was Tal. It's also a girl's name, and she said that at the age of 3, she knew that she was going to be a doctor. So her father was a doctor, and she knew she was going to be a doctor. In her room, in her dorm room at Harvard, she had a plastic skeleton, which she would look at and study and admire. Her passion was, and today she's almost 50. She's still as passionate as she was when she was 3 years old about being a medical doctor. Some people are like that.
Yeah.
Other people, not so.
Yeah,
And both are okay.
my daughter, when she was 7 years old, she tell us, I will be a veterinarian doctor. And she is right now studying veterinarian. So yeah, there are people that knows their passion from early years. But do you think everybody, absolutely everybody has passions?
Yes. There are people who came to me and said, Tal, I don't really have a passion, or I'm not passionate. And to me, it's like saying, Tal, I don't really have a desire to eat, or I'm not really hungry or desirous of food. And to me, is, well, you may not have a passion for cucumbers or for lasagna, but there are foods that you like. It's in our nature to enjoy food, to crave food. And for some people, it's chocolate or ice cream. For other people, it's, a good salad and or whatever it is. And the question is not, do I like food or don't I like food? It's what food do I like? The question is not, am I passionate or not, but what am I passionate about?
Yeah.
And if you're not passionate about anything, well, it means that you haven't found your passion, or you haven't allowed yourself to let go for whatever reason, because some people are afraid of finding their passions, because there is also something that is very, very scary about looking for one passions. And one thing that is scary is you're afraid maybe you won't find it. So it's easier to just not even try.
Yeah.
But yes, the simple answer is yes. We all potentially can find a passion or passions.
Tal, you are an expert in talent development in companies, right? And I want to know, what do you think about passion at work? How important is it? How can we relate passion with productivity, with innovation, with happiness at work?
Yeah. Every single positive measure that we look at in organizations is associated with a sense of meaning, sense of purpose, or as you put it, passion. People who are passionate about their work, who find a sense of purpose in what they do, are more productive. They are more innovative, more creative, more likely to think outside the box. They're more resilient, so they are more likely to go through stressful times or demanding times in a healthy way. They're more likely to stay in their workplace. They're less likely to leave. So the bottom line is that passion pays, that it's a good investment for employees to help, for employers to help their employees find something that they're passionate about at work?
Yeah, yeah. I am also certificated passion business facilitator and individual passion certificate. Se me enredé. Passion test individual facilitator and business passion test certificated facilitator. So I think it's a very close relationship between passion and commitment too, because the commitment isn't for the payment only. It's also because it is enjoyable. It is we have a sense of meaning, and and maybe also we can feel to be at the peak potential zone when we.
Good. Yeah, you know, Dana, you're absolutely right. So Peter Drucker, who's considered the father of modern management studies, Peter Drucker, you know, years ago said that your best employees are volunteers. Your best employees are volunteers. Why? Because your best employees can find work elsewhere. Very often they can be offered more money to do the same or something similar. They're there because they want to be there, which means that you need to be concerned over helping them find a sense of meaning and purpose and passion. Because if they don't, they'll look for it elsewhere. Because people need it. Again, it's part of our nature. Just like we need to eat, we need to find a sense of meaning in life. And if they are indeed volunteers, then they will leave once they see a better prospect for more meaning. So this is really ought to be a top priority for organizations, a top priority for managers to, first of all, find passion themselves, because passion is contagious, and then also help those around them find meaning in their work.
Well, Tal, I think we covered all or many issues about passion and happiness. Would you like to add something we missed or I forgot?
No, just to say that, first of all, it's very clear that you're passionate about passion, and that is contagious. And just coming in and passionately talking about any topic really helps to promote it. And by you doing it about passion, meaning, and purpose, you're spreading what I've come to call the ultimate currency, the currency of happiness. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you, Tal. Thank you for being here and be able to this interview. Thanks a lot, Tal.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.